Welcome to Scars of the Past Ministry. I am your host, Patty Adams, DTM and MSP. Scars of the Past is a nonprofit ministry that supports and assists victims of sexual violence. We do this through a holistic approach that allows the victim to become victorious through building faith, trust, resilience, and character. By doing this, the victims will be able to approach life with hope and be productive in their society. We are very passionate about educating our community on ways to stay safe and guarding themselves from the enemy. Our motto is "We stand against violence, we stand for freedom." Our desire is no victim will live with lifelong scars, but instead will be able to walk in the destiny that God has chosen for each of them. This is our last and final podcast for the month of April. The material you will hear today covers victims' compensation. Did you know you are entitled to some benefits based on the type of crime committed? Listen in and hear how you can apply and how you can learn more about who qualify for these benefits. When applying for these benefits, I want to give you some numbers up front that you may call to get some assistance. If you live in the Pensacola area, you can dial 850-444-4000 or 1-800-226-6667. National number is also available for you to call, and that is 1-800-851-3420. So let's jump in and learn more about what crimes victims compensation is. The information that I'm going to give you now can be found under the website of www.benefits.gov. Some crime victims, particularly victims of violent crimes, may be eligible for victims' compensation. The Office of the Attorney General for the state of Florida administers the Crime Victims Compensation Program. This program provides compensation for such out-of-pocket expenses as medical bills, lost wages, funeral bills, and counseling related to the impact of the crime when there is an injury or death, or threat of injury to the victim. Compensation is paid only when other financial resources such as private insurance, workers' comp, and/or offender restitution do not cover the loss. To determine if you may be eligible for this program or to obtain further information concerning the available benefits, download brochures and/or claim request forms from the Office of Attorney General's Victim Services Division. Again, the website is www.benefits.gov. State Crimes Compensation Program reimburses victims for crime-related expenses. Such expenses include medical costs, mental health counseling, funeral and burial costs, and loss of wages or loss of support. All states, the District of Columbia, the U.S. Virgin Islands, Guam, and Puerto Rico have established compensation programs for victims. Who is eligible for state crimes victims compensation? All United States and territories can apply. To receive compensation, victims must comply with the state statutes and rules. This requires victims to cooperate with the reasonable request of law enforcement and submit a timely application to the compensation program. To identify requirements, the Office for Victims of Crime, which is also known as OVC, website provides links to victims assistance and compensation programs and corresponding state administered contact information. So you may be wondering, how do I apply for state crimes victims compensation? To apply for this program, visit the National Association of Crime Victims Compensation Board website to locate your state's nearest Victims Assistance and Compensation Program. If you need to apply for victims' compensation in the state of Florida, visit Office of the Attorney General's website. Then do a search for victims' compensation application. You can also find help by going to myfloridalegal.com. Download the application. It is only 4 pages. In my opinion, it is perhaps the most user-friendly form I have completed in a long time. The form is by the Bureau of Victims' Compensation Claims Form. The first thing on the form is the instruction, which allows you to check the type of compensation benefits you are applying for, such as disability, lost wages, or loss of support. Then there is an additional section that covers other types of benefits requested, such as sexual battery, domestic violence, or human trafficking. You are then taken to several different sections to complete. Now I will tell you that there is 9 sections in completing this application. However, Section 8 is not necessarily something you fill out. It's more for information based as it is states the eligibility requirements. So I would probably work from the bottom up so that I could find out what the requirements are before I would spend my time filling out all the information just to get down to the bottom and realize that I don't qualify for these benefits. So in Section 1, this portion covers the victim and applicant's information. So like with any form of this case, there are certain things that they're going to want to know, such as your name, your social security number, your phone number, and etc. Section 2 is a referral source information, is the name of the agency or person assisting you with the application. Section 3 is disability and loss of wages sections, which covers the name of your company, their address, along with the wages you lost due to the incident. Section 4, it covers loss of support and or grief counseling. This section will include your name and all the names of claimants who may need therapy and their dates of birth. Section 5 is the insurance information, and so this you will have to include your insurance company's name, policy number, address, and things of that nature. In Section 6, it covers other compensation, such as settlement and attorney information, which will include the information on the person who is representing you by legal counsel. Section 7 covers the crime information, name of the law enforcement agency, date of the crime, if the crime was reported within 120 hours of when it took place, any documentation you have to support the information, such as report, case file, officer's name, and attorney if one has been hired. Section 8 goes over the eligibility requirements. Nothing to fill out, so therefore you may want to start from the bottom of the form, like I said earlier, and work your way up. For instance, to qualify for victims' compensation, the victims must have suffered a physical injury or death as a result of a compensable crime. A psychiatric or psychological injury is a result of a forcible felony or a mental injury as a result of child abuse as diagnosed by a psychologist or a psychiatrist. There is benefits such as relocation for victims of sexual battery. The victim must need to relocate due to a reasonable fear for his or her safety. The relocation certification worksheet certified by a rape crisis center in the state of Florida is required and must be received within 3 years after the sexual battery occurred. Human trafficking relocation assistance. The victim must have an urgent need to escape from an unsafe environment directly related to a sexual human trafficking offense. The certification worksheet certified by a domestic violence or rape crisis center in the state of Florida is required and must be received within 45 days of the crime of the last identifiable threat communicated with the proper authorities. And then you get to Section 9, which covers the confidentiality statement and release of information. Like with most legal forms, you have to sign and date and swear that the information is given is as close to the facts as you can recall. In other words, the agency is responsible for giving the money, wants to ensure that there is no deceit or lies when completing the form and that it is true to the best of your knowledge. This form must be notarized. And so all the information that I gave from Section 1 all the way through Section 9 is directly from the victim's compensation for the state of Florida. Now, if you live somewhere other than the state of Florida, you'll want to make sure of going to that national site so you can find out where the nearest location is in which you can fill that form out. Some of them you have to actually go into a location and fill it out. Some they will mail the application and you can mail it back, and then some you can only do it online. This concludes our series on information and educational podcasts in regards to sexual assault awareness and prevention. Thank you for joining us every week. The last day of this month is April 30th. Tune in as Scars of the Past presents a production on real life stories of survivors. May God bless and keep each of you.